Let me tell you something that might shake you a little bit, but I promise it's the truth. You were somebody before they met you. You had a name, you had a calling, you had gifts, you had dreams. You had a heart that beat with vision and a mind full of possibilities. You didn't need anyone else to complete you, because God already created you whole. But somewhere along the way, in the name of love, in the name of trying to hold on to someone, you started shrinking. You stopped showing up for yourself. You started abandoning your boundaries to keep the peace. You quieted your voice to avoid arguments. You said yes when everything inside you was screaming no. You began to believe that in order to be loved, you had to disappear. And that lie is killing too many good men, men who had fire in their belly, men with ambition, with purpose. Men who wanted more than a hookup, they wanted a partner. But nobody taught them that in the pursuit of connection, the first person you can't betray is yourself. See, love isn't supposed to strip you of who you are. Love isn't supposed to mute your personality, your values, or your calling. Love is supposed to call you higher. If being with them makes you forget who you are, then that's not love. It's codependency dressed in chemistry. You are not made to be anyone's emotional dumping ground. You are not just a provider, not just a protector, not just the strong one. You are a human being, you matter too, and it's not selfish to say, I need to protect my peace. It's not wrong to say, I deserve to be seen, not just used. It's not arrogant to say, I have value, even if you don't see it. It's wisdom, it's growth, it's maturity. The problem is, we've been conditioned, especially as men, to think that our worth is proven through pain. That the more we sacrifice ourselves for someone else, the more deserving we are of love. But love that requires you to surrender your soul is not love. It's a transaction, and you're paying too much for something that doesn't give back. Let me speak directly to the man listening who's exhausted. You've been carrying someone else's emotions like they were yours. You've been editing yourself to be more acceptable. You've been praying that one day they'll finally see everything you bring to the table. But what if you've been sitting at the wrong table all along? Listen, God didn't create you with that vision, with that light, with that leadership, just to have you waste it trying to prove to someone that you're lovable. You already are. You're already enough. You were enough the moment you were born. You don't have to beg for what's meant for you. You don't have to fight to be noticed by someone who's blinded by their own brokenness. That's not your job. Your job is to remember yourself. Your job is to come back home to the man you were before you twisted yourself into knots trying to be what someone else needed. The man you were before the compromise, before the pain, before the confusion, before the loneliness crept in and told you that you had to settle. That man is still there. He might be buried, he might be bruised, but he's not gone. He's just waiting for you to show up, for you to choose him again. Because when you finally realize that your worth isn't up for negotiation, when you remember that you were already whole before they ever said, I love you, that's when real love can begin. That's when you attract someone who doesn't want to change you, but see you, who doesn't just take from you, but pours into you, who doesn't make you choose between loving them and loving yourself. So today, if you've forgotten, let me remind you, you were somebody before they met you. And you still are. It's time to stand on that. Let's get honest about something a lot of men carry but rarely talk about. We've confused being loving with being a savior. Some of y'all are out here trying to fix, rescue, and rebuild people who aren't even asking to be saved. You call it love, but what you're doing is sacrificing your own sanity in the name of someone else's healing journey, and they're not even on that journey with you. Listen to me, man. Love is not a rescue mission. You're not a rehab center. You're not a spiritual ambulance. You are not responsible for healing wounds you didn't cause. But somewhere deep inside, because of your big heart, because of your upbringing, or maybe because you never felt like you were enough, you started believing that if you could just love them hard enough, they'd change, they'd stop hurting you, They'd finally be okay, but while you were trying to save them, they were draining you. And now you're sitting in emotional debt, tired, confused, wondering, why isn't this love working? Because it's not love when only one person is doing the work. It's not love when their pain becomes your prison. It's not love when your boundaries are always getting bulldozed in the name of compassion. That's not noble. It's self-neglect. There's a difference between supporting someone and carrying someone. Between helping someone and rescuing someone. Real love is mutual. Real love says, I see your pain, but I also honor my peace. Real love says, I'll walk beside you, but I won't walk for you. You cannot heal someone who is committed to being broken. You cannot pour into someone who punches holes in every cup you fill. You cannot keep bleeding just to prove that your love is real. Because what happens when you finally run out of emotional oxygen? Who's gonna resuscitate you? This is where a lot of good men get stuck. We wear our capacity to endure as a badge of honor. We say things like, she just needs time, or she's been through so much, I can't give up on her. But let me ask you something, brother. While you're holding on for dear life, who's holding on to you? You were never meant to be the answer to someone else's brokenness. You were never meant to lose yourself while trying to make someone else feel whole. You want to love deeply. I respect that. That takes courage. But love without boundaries is not divine. It's destructive. So if you're in something right now that feels more like emotional labor than love, if you're constantly explaining your worth, if you've become a therapist instead of a partner, it might be time to stop saving and start choosing yourself. That's not cold. That's not selfish. That's wisdom. That's growth. That's love for you, because here's the truth. The right person will not need you to bleed to prove you care. The right person will meet you where you are, not drag you down trying to fix where they're not willing to grow. So take the cape off. You're not a savior. You're a man with value. You deserve a love that builds with you, not a love that breaks you. Love isn't about fixing someone. It's about choosing someone who's already choosing to grow. That's the difference. Let's talk about something that doesn't get said enough, especially to men. You don't have to become someone else to be loved. Some of you have been shifting in relationships so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to be yourself. You say the right things, you act the right way, you dim certain parts of your personality, not because it's who you are, but because deep down you're afraid that if you showed up as you, it wouldn't be enough. That's not love. That's survival. That's trauma dressed in charm. That's fear covered up in performance. That's a man trying to hold on to connection by letting go of his own truth. But listen to me and let it hit deep. Don't trade your authenticity for attachment. Because if you lose yourself trying to keep them, you've already lost. You might be in a situation right now where every day feels like an audition. You're constantly managing their emotions, adjusting your voice, walking on eggshells, not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, you started believing that being real would get you rejected. So now you're living small to keep the peace. You're agreeable even when it hurts. You laugh at things that don't feel good. You go along with what they want. Not because you're aligned, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you say, that doesn't work for me. Brother, hear me. You were not created to be palatable. You were created to be powerful. And if someone can only love a watered-down version of you, they're not really loving you. They're loving a role you're playing to avoid being alone. But here's the problem with pretending. It costs more than it pays. It drains your soul. It silences your spirit. And eventually, you don't even recognize the man in the mirror anymore. God did not give you a unique identity just for you to trade it away for a temporary connection. You were designed to stand out, not to blend in for someone else's comfort. So ask yourself, are you shrinking to be chosen? Are you hiding your voice just to stay needed? Are you putting your values on mute just to feel loved? If you answered yes to any of that, then I need you to hear this loud and clear. You don't have to betray yourself to be loved. The right relationship will never require you to sacrifice your core. The right person won't be intimidated by your truth. They'll honor it. Because real connection doesn't come from pretending. It comes from presence, from truth, from vulnerability, from saying, "This is who I am, not perfect, but real." So if being authentic means losing someone, then that's not a loss. It's a blessing in disguise. Because staying in a relationship that only loves the mask you wear is lonelier than being alone. Let go of the need to be liked and step into the freedom of being you. Because when you finally show up as yourself, unfiltered, unedited, unafraid, you won't have to chase love anymore. It'll recognize you, and that's when you'll know you're not just in love, you're in truth, and there's nothing more powerful than that. I want you to imagine something with me for a second. You walk out into a field. You've got a seed in your hand. It's full of potential. It could grow into something beautiful, something lasting. But here's the thing. If you plant that seed in toxic soil, no matter how much you water it, it's not going to bloom. Why? Because the soil determines whether that seed has a shot. Now let me bring that back to love. Love is the flower, but respect is the soil. Without respect, love can't grow. I don't care how good the chemistry is. I don't care how intense the feelings are. I don't care what you've been through together. If respect isn't the foundation, you're just building a house on sand. And too many men, good men, are stuck in relationships where they're being loved but not respected. Where their money is welcome, their presence is expected, their silence is required, but their voice, their heart, their truth, completely overlooked. You might be showing up, providing, protecting, doing everything a man should do, but inside you feel invisible. And here's the raw truth that doesn't get said enough. You cannot build love in a space where you are not honored. Respect isn't just about how someone talks to you. It's about whether your boundaries are acknowledged, whether your needs are taken seriously, whether your dreams are supported or dismissed. Because let's be honest, too many men were taught that being respected is optional as long as you're being loved. But love without respect is manipulation. It's control. It's a leash dressed up like loyalty. And you weren't made to live leashed. You were made to lead. To walk in dignity, to be seen as a man, not used like a resource. And I get it. Maybe you've stayed because you don't want to start over. Maybe you're afraid of looking like a failure. Maybe part of you thinks this is as good as it gets. But brother, your peace is too expensive to spend it in a relationship where you're constantly defending your value. You are not hard to love. You're just in a space that doesn't know how to handle the weight of your heart. So what does respect look like? It looks like being listened to, even when your opinion is different. It looks like your no being accepted without punishment. It looks like someone celebrating your strength without exploiting your silence. Because respect isn't just a feeling, it's a behavior. It shows up in how they speak to you when they're angry. It shows up in whether they keep your confidence. It shows up in how they handle your vulnerability. And let me say this, loud and clear. You deserve to be with someone who respects your soul, not just your sacrifice. Because when respect is in place, love becomes safe, love becomes fertile, love becomes something you can build on, not just survive in. So stop pouring your water into dead soil hoping for a garden. Stop confusing obligation with devotion. If the ground you're standing on doesn't respect the roots you're trying to plant, it's time to move. Because the man you're becoming, he needs more than love. He needs respect. And when you finally find both respect and love together, that's when you stop fighting to be seen and start growing into everything you were born to be. Let's get to the truth that we don't want to talk about, but desperately need to. Sometimes the people we love the most aren't meant to stay, and that doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means you've outgrown what can no longer grow with you. See, we've been taught that love is supposed to last forever. And so when it doesn't, we carry that like shame. We tell ourselves, if I was better, they would have stayed. If I did more, they wouldn't have left. If I was enough, this wouldn't be falling apart. But let me tell you something that will free your soul if you let it. Love is not proven by how long you hold on. Sometimes love is proven by how bravely you let go. Because holding on to something or someone that's hurting you, that's changing who you are, that's costing you your peace, that's not strength. That's fear, and fear wears the mask of loyalty far too often. I know what it's like to want to make it work. To replay the good moments in your head. To hold on to the potential of what they could become, if only they healed, if only they changed, if only they met you halfway. But potential isn't partnership, and love without mutual effort is just emotional weight disguised as hope. Some of you are exhausted, not because love failed, but because you've been the only one fighting for it. And I want you to know, brother, it's okay to stop fighting. It's okay to say, I love you, but I love me too. You're not wrong for choosing your peace. You're not selfish for choosing your future. You're not weak for walking away from something that's slowly breaking you down. Because you can love someone deeply and still say, this is not where I thrive. And hear me, letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean the memories weren't beautiful. It doesn't mean your heart wasn't in it. Letting go just means you've recognized that real love doesn't require you to lose yourself. You can grieve the loss and still be grateful for the growth. You can feel the pain and still walk in purpose. You can hold compassion for them and still choose better for you. That's what emotional maturity looks like. That's what healing looks like. That's what real love for yourself looks like. So if you're in that moment right now, standing at the edge of goodbye, holding on with one hand while the other hand is trembling, unsure if you can let go, let me remind you of this. You've survived before, you've rebuilt before, you've come back from loss before, and you will do it again. Not just because you're strong, but because you are worthy of love that doesn't require pain to prove its depth. So take a deep breath, wipe your eyes if you need to, let the tears fall, let the silence speak, let the wound breathe. And then let go, not because you didn't love them, but because you finally learned how to love you. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to leave you with something that could shift everything, not just in your relationships, but in how you live and lead as a man. Wholeness attracts wholeness. Read that again, because the truth is, most of us were never taught to love from a place of wholeness. We were taught to chase love from a place of lack. We thought if we found the right person, they'd complete us. They'd fix what was broken. They'd quiet the chaos. They'd finally fill that ache inside, the one we didn't want to name out loud. But what ends up happening? You find someone, and for a while it feels like a dream. But slowly, the same wounds resurface. The same patterns play out. The same emptiness creeps back in. Why? Because no one can give you what you're not giving yourself. Love is not a substitute for self-worth. A relationship is not a cure for your inner void. And connection doesn't mean anything if you're still disconnected from you. This is why so many good men end up in cycles of pain. They're searching for peace in people who are still at war with themselves. They're trying to build healthy love with unhealed hearts. They're hoping to find stability while standing on the shaky ground of insecurity. But hear me on this. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So the journey isn't about finding someone. It's about becoming someone. Become the man who doesn't need attention to feel valued. Become the man who doesn't need chaos to feel alive. Become the man who doesn't perform to be accepted. Become the man who is whole on his own, so that when love shows up, it's a bonus, not a bandage. See, when you walk in wholeness, everything changes. You stop begging for love because you already live loved. You stop chasing people who ignore you because your time is no longer cheap. You stop settling for potential because you've raised your standard to match your purpose. And something powerful happens. You start attracting relationships that reflect your healing, not your hurt. People show up who speak your language: truth, depth, accountability, peace, and love. Real love finds you at eye level, not from a place of need, but from a place of overflow. But wholeness doesn't come easy. It takes work. It takes confronting your past. It takes sitting in the silence and letting the wounds bleed so they can heal. It takes forgiving the people who never said sorry. It takes being honest about the parts of you that still feel small. But it's worth it, because when you are whole, you're no longer looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to build with you. And that, my brother, is where love truly begins. So today, I'm not just challenging you to love better. I'm challenging you to become better, to become whole, to become free, to become the kind of man who doesn't just attract love, but attracts the right love. Because wholeness isn't perfection, it's peace, it's alignment, it's knowing who you are and refusing to shrink ever again. So take this journey not for them, not for the next relationship, for you, because the man you're becoming. He doesn't chase love, he carries it with him wherever he goes. Listen if you felt something during this message, if it made you pause, if it touched a part of you that you usually keep hidden. Don't ignore that. That's your soul asking you to wake up, to stop surviving and start living whole, present, healed, loved. Because I know what it's like to feel lost in your own skin. I know what it's like to love people who never saw the real you. I know what it's like to lie in bed at night, wondering if being a good man is ever gonna be enough. But I'm telling you right now, you are not alone, you are not broken, you are not too far gone. You are a man in the middle of your becoming. And this right here, is your permission to start again, to start loving without losing yourself, to choose healing over hiding, to choose peace over performance. And if this message stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Speech balloon, drop a comment below. Let's talk about it. Be real. This is a safe space for real men doing real work. Repeat button, share this with a brother who's struggling silently, someone who needs to hear this truth. Thumbs up, like it if it resonated. Bell, and make sure you subscribe, because I'm not here to play it safe. I'm here to speak to your spirit. And we're just getting started. You're not here by accident. You were drawn to this for a reason. Now go live that reason, out loud, in truth, and fully you. Because the world needs your wholeness more than it needs your perfection. I'll see you in the next one. Keep rising.